Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in on A Little Bit of Everything with me, and I am your host, Angelica. This is a podcast that talks about a little bit of everything, so sit back and enjoy the show. Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of A Little Bit of Everything with me. Today, my guest, she is a lawyer in Chicago. I cannot wait to speak with her. Welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
I'm good, thank you, and thank you for having me on.
Likewise, and I'm so excited because I love talking to lawyers, and I haven't had an experience to talk to one. So I know I've dealt with one in the past, but you're an immigration lawyer.
Yes, we're a unique breed, I feel.
I can imagine the stories you get and the stuff that you got to deal with. But before we even get started, tell the listeners about yourself.
Sure. So I'm Dhenu Maru, have an immigration law firm in Chicago, Illinois, and I've been doing this now for, 12, 13 years. I lost count. And I also am an immigrant. So I was born in Mumbai, India, and I immigrated to the United States at the age of 10. So I was quite young when I came here, and got through schooling, somehow had the epiphany to go into law school, and went to law school and, found my path as an immigration lawyer, and then a business owner, having an immigration law firm that I run. And so it's been quite a journey. I'm happy to talk about any and all of it with you today.
Well, I want to know, why a lawyer? What sparked you to become a lawyer, and especially in immigration?
Sure. And, that is a very, very good question. Interestingly, I don't know too many, or did, and now I know, but didn't at the time that I decided to go to law school. I didn't know too many people who were South Asian and lawyers. And so, there were people in my family who were engineers, people in medicine, people in dentistry, all different kinds of fields, really, but not anybody who was in the law. I have one cousin who went to law school, but then ended up not being a practicing attorney. But, so it was a very new idea for me to kind of go into this field. And what really, I think, touches me about the law is that when you're an immigrant, whenever you go to a new country and you feel completely lost, try it sometimes, definitely is an experience. You feel really disempowered. And that's one of the feelings that, that leaves a mark on you. And law is one of those fields that I think always made me feel that it was going to be a route, a path to be empowered and to empower others. And particularly immigration law, right? So I deal with a lot of people who have gone through this feeling and who sometimes, when they come to us, are in the process of feeling extremely disempowered. And, we have the unique opportunity to give them a path forward, to give them a source of empowerment. And so I'm really lucky that way. I feel like, I get to live my purpose in a way,
Definitely. And I like what you said there. We feel disempowered when people are transitioning into a different country, because it can be scary, and also you don't know what you're walking into.
Absolutely. You don't know how to get things done. I mean, I remember going to a grocery store and not understanding how to buy groceries.
Mm-hmm.
So, absolutely. Systems are different,
No, for sure. Systems are different. And I remember my parents telling me how when they were transitioning my mom arrived to Canada first. My dad kind of had to travel a lot more. to kind of get to
Mm-hmm.
Canada. And he even said when he arrived in Texas and trying to find a bus ticket to get to another state, and because his idea was to
Mm-hmm.
get to Florida, which he did, and he established himself there because Florida is a Spanish-speaking state, like when you're
Yeah.
in central Miami. So he was like, kind of like, okay, I need to get to Miami because that's where I can actually speak the language and get through the basic necessities, going to the grocery store, how to get money and how to, move yourself. And when he was in Texas, I know some parts of Texas do speak Spanish, but he was just like, I was completely lost. Like it was,
Yeah.
you're getting that culture shock as soon as you land there.
Yeah, absolutely. And it hits you all at once from all the sides.
No, yeah, and oh my gosh, I feel so bad sometimes when you hear these stories. You're just like, wow, but they still manage to make it through.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. And that is the human spirit, but it is also a really, really, I guess, that journey will never leave you. I mean, once you've experienced it, it is a part of you.
I definitely agree. Now,
So that's how I sort of made it to law school. But I heard someplace, and this kind of I really like the analogy. And it's like if you want to win at any game, you have to learn the rules really well, right? And somewhere that made a mark on me, and I said, the law is the rules. That's the rules of this country. So it is the means to empowerment in a way, and that's the connection that I made. I mean, there are so many means to empowerment, but for some reason that really guided me.
oh yeah, that's great. And I love when you take that one experience and it becomes, like you said, it guided you. It was your force. It was like your motivation. And I'm so curious to know now what made you start your own business, because I know there's a lot of passion and I can really hear it. And I want to know, how did that start for you? Was it so after you were finished with schooling? Of course, you have to go through, like, I guess, hours, or I don't know, because as an architect, I know going into architecture school and you want to become an architect, you got to do a whole bunch of volunteer hours and then get your exam and then you get your license and then you're paying for a license every year. Is it something similar like that?
Oh yeah. We definitely have a system called continuing legal education, and we have to meet a certain number of hours to maintain our license every year. So there's that piece, absolutely. And when you graduate from law school, at least in the United States, law schools famously say that we teach you how to think like a lawyer. So law schools aren't practice oriented in general. They're oriented to train people how to think like a lawyer. And so you don't learn the actual ins and outs and how to do and how to practice immigration law, property law, or anything like that. You learn the thought process behind those laws. And so, definitely the practical element. When I graduated from law school, I needed to learn how the actual practice of law was, and to figure out in which area of law really did I find myself belonging the most. And I kind of stumbled upon immigration law. So I worked with some lawyers, private practice, and then had cases that come to me from different areas of law, and I just naturally really gravitated towards my immigration law cases. And then I had experience at a nonprofit, and I worked at a nonprofit for a number of years. It was fantastic. It taught me how to speak Spanish in a even though I probably speak at like the second grade level, but still. Um, and I learned how to speak Spanish, or at least communicate legal things in Spanish, legal concepts in Spanish, at the nonprofit. And I also learned really how to deal with issues that impacted individuals from the beginning to the end. which was a different experience from working at a private firm. Because in a private firm, it's more assembly line. Like you get a piece of the case. You don't get the whole case unless you're, a senior managing attorney. And so you don't learn the whole case. But in the nonprofit, we don't have, as much funding, as much staff to really be able to piecemeal cases. So we actually learned tremendous, amount of information. It was a blessing to me to work at the nonprofit. But the limitations of the nonprofit were very apparent. Like we were limited by the funding sources. Sometimes funding sources carry with them conditions, like they'll only fund citizenship or they'll only fund a certain type of case. And so what if you get somebody who is a different type of a case but equally needs your help? We had our hands tied to some degree, right? And so opening a private firm, I really wanted to kind of merge that nonprofit, attitude of caring for the whole person and the whole client with the efficiencies and the flexibilities that the private law firm experience offered. So, and that's what I created. I created a boutique law firm, which is, me and some staff members, but we are designed to sort of treat the case and the client, not just the case,
And it's like you are doing, so from my understanding, you're doing like the full package for that person. Getting them settled, showing, like, I guess you're giving them tips of, okay, so, I guess like, I'm trying to find the proper word for it. Kind of like an Airbnb. Like, you provide the internet, you provide this, but for you, it's more of the, I'm going to provide you the stuff for you to navigate through the city and how to get your life started, important things that you need, like a checklist, and then you pretty much helping them get started until they get comfortable, and then off they go.
Right. So for me, and I think this is where we really shine, is that we really take into account a person's circumstances, right? So, if you talk to somebody and you say, okay, which legal options, maybe, sometimes a person may have two or more different legal available options, right? But then how do they choose? How do you empower them to choose? How do you teach them about their own case so that they do feel empowered about what they're doing and how they're moving forward, right? It's one thing to say, yeah, I'll just get it done. And it's another thing to say, you are my partner in this. I'm going to teach you what we're doing and why we're doing it.
And it's a tough one. It really is. When it comes to immigration, there's so much involved. You've got families that are being involved. You got individuals. You got their businesses being involved. And how do you keep it together when you hear some of these stories?
Yeah, it's really important. It's really important. I think self-care is important. It's important to know that you are absolutely you're on the forefront of this journey for them, and you're taking a lot of the hits so that they don't feel it as strongly. And sometimes it does get difficult because you don't always have good news, right? And you have to, and this is what I tell even my paralegals and people who work for me, that you have to understand that you're putting your best foot forward, and the system cannot be modified by me or my staff alone, right? But us doing our best to work within the system is still a huge service to the people we're working for.
And I admire people like who deals with situation, like even divorce lawyers is another one. Like, you're going through these emotions with that person, and you're trying to become the mediator or representing somebody on either side, and it's just like you hear the either horror stories and how do I protect my client, and you're protecting the rights of these individuals
right.
through immigration. And now explain to us, what type of immigration services do you provide, so that way people have a better understanding, because I find when people say immigration law, it's like it can be so much, but then maybe out of that big basket, you're probably eliminating 2 or 3 here. So can you explain what services?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we focus on family and employment-based immigration services primarily. And what that means in general, employment-based means like if a business wants to hire somebody, maybe they're here as an international student on a student visa, or maybe they are overseas and they want to hire this person to come in to work for their business because they have, a certain skill set that is in shortage. Then that is an employer-employee visa called the H-1B here. So that's something that we do. Another thing we do is family-based immigration, and this is an example of this would be, somebody who's either undocumented or they entered the U.S. on a different visa status, and then they fell in love and they got married to a U.S. citizen, and now they want to take that application, and the U.S. citizen spouse, of course, wants to make sure that their spouse is able to stay here, and so we need to file paperwork to make sure that that's possible. So that's that's an example. There's so many different types of services, but those are like, examples of family and employment-based immigration and what that sort of includes. And then, of course, there are also like within temporary visas, there's so many changes of statuses. Like somebody may have a certain kind of visa, so maybe they came here as a tourist, and then they want to study here, so they want to change from a tourist visa to a student visa. So those are also, examples of services that we would provide. And then, unfortunately, especially in today's environment here in the United States, you're getting a lot of people who are being placed in removal proceedings. And sometimes they have cases that they're eligible for. Sometimes they have defenses that they're eligible for. And so we represent people also in court to help them enforce or, protect their rights.
Wow. Wow, you cover pretty much almost everything then.
There are some kinds that I think we don't really focus on, some kinds of applications that we don't focus on. But yeah, we do cover a really wide variety of applications, and what that really means is that we end up covering a wide variety of individuals because we have CEOs that want to open a branch of their business that come to us, and we have individuals who are, fleeing their country for fear of being killed, applying for asylum that comes with us too.
Oh. Wow. Okay. What kind of surprised me was the tourist visa becoming a student visa. I didn't know that was even possible.
Yeah.
So would they have to go back? Like, do they do all the paperwork in the United States? I'm just saying the United States because, like, a lot of my listeners are from the States, but they just do it in the States, and then do they have to go back to their country and bring their stuff over, or do they just stay here during the process? How does that even work? I was so surprised by that.
Yeah, sure. Well, it really, both options are available, but then the specifics will depend on so many things, like timing, right?
Mm-hmm.
If their visitor visa is about to expire, well, they can't just stay here past their expiration date and explore schools and all that, right? So then they do have to go back. But sometimes, they've come here and they've really identified something that's a really good fit for them, and they do want to switch over. Well, there is an option to be able to do that as well, but different options will have different pros and cons, and that's exactly the kind of guidance that clients come to us for, right? Like they'll ask us things like, which way is the better approach? And then, we have a chance to really explore all of their circumstances and all of their priorities and preferences, and explain to them the limitations of different options to help them navigate through all of these very, very complex rules.
Yeah, and I'm so blown away. I'm like, oh, I didn't know that. So I could have been a tourist in a different country and then end up going to school. Shoot, that's cool. The other thing, going back
to... And we do get lots of people from Canada, too.
Oh, yeah, I know that's the norm. I feel like that was the norm for a while now. And I was just like, I was even considering moving to Florida once upon a time and just starting my career, but it's just taking that jump. And, it's not just moving there. People, like, I feel like people on TV and movies make it seem so easy. Like, I'm just going to pack up my bags and I'm going to live in Vegas and start my own business. And, people get inspired by movies, but why can't we find a movie or a show that can tell us, well, damn, I can't just pack up my bags. I gotta really do the research, and I gotta do this. Everything's so picture perfect that you're kind of like, well, I didn't expect to have all these fees. I didn't expect that, I had to pay for this and I had to pay for that.
Oh boy, yeah. Fees, immigration fees it's like, they are a big, giant expense. Definitely nothing like, fees we see in other areas. So, even if, everything is either in the multiple hundreds or multiple thousands.
Oh man, yeah. And I guess it depends on the complications of the case, reason why it being so expensive, right?
Complications, it depends on the type of application. So even just even simple things sometimes can be surprisingly expensive. Like, if you lose your naturalization certificate, replacing it is over $1,000. You're like, I'm already a citizen.
Oh my gosh. So a good tip is keep all your paperwork and store it somewhere that you can find it, or keep an electronic copy as well, just in case you actually lose the physical.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's expensive.
Yeah.
Now, going back to being an entrepreneur and starting this practice, this office, how did it feel at the beginning doing it? Because I can imagine that journey of like, oh my gosh, I found this location. I'm going to, grow. I'm going to, go out there, show everybody like what I do. And how did that all start? Like, I'm pretty sure you've gone through some challenges like any other entrepreneur has, trying to get yourself out there and on your feet. Like, did you ever feel like you wanted to give up when you first started, like, with your own business already ready to go?
I was really nervous initially to start, and if anybody's really thinking about doing it, the best advice that I could give was just to jump with both feet in, because that's what I did. I didn't have savings. I went from a nonprofit, principally, to having my own firm, so I didn't really have a lot of savings before I started my own practice, and I said, you know what, I'm going to put some, I'm going to take on a lease for an office in downtown Chicago, and I didn't know where my first client was going to come from, and so I signed a 1-year lease with a company that was offering office space, and I literally started with one file, and then what happened? I mean, I feel like this is where you hear all these woo-woo things about the law of attraction and this and that, but something about just being out there and putting yourself in action somehow just makes everything else work. I mean, it's really weird, but I started my office, and then I didn't have cases, and I really had no idea how I was going to do it. I had no idea, but I just kept on doing things, going out there, talking to churches, having, responding to messages on message boards. I just kept putting myself out there again and again and again. And, eventually, within the first 6 months, I ended up having a small filing cabinet full of cases. And it was enough for me to make it through that first year. So it really, I mean, I feel like, I didn't know how it was going to happen. And, one thing is that you don't need to know how. You just need to keep doing. And something or the other will work out, and someone or the other will be the right connection, and you won't know where that connection comes from.
Now, how do you keep doing, though? Because, some of us can keep going and think, okay, like, this is awesome. I'm going to keep doing it. Like, I have, for example, I have, like, my first clients. How can I just keep going? Is it the motivation? Did you have like a specific quote? Did you have a support system with you? Because it's a lot of money being down on the line when you're leasing. You've got, you got to take care of yourself. You got to take care of your business. You got to pay the bills of your business, but also where you're living.
Yeah.
And, what kept you motivated?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I also really started doing was I started working on myself. And I feel like that is the investment that will always pay off. Because you don't know where you are weak until you're literally out there with no cover. And for me, I realized so many things about myself as I started working on myself and listening to people who've done it, watching videos, and talking to people who had been successful, talking to coaches even when I couldn't really afford a lot of their services, just being informed and being able to sort of see where I needed to work on myself, because your business can only grow to the extent that you grow.
Exactly. And it's so true. It all comes down how much work you're putting into it. But some of us do fall apart, but there's always that little person in your head that's always like, no, keep going. I know you're the other 3/4 of your head is like, oh my gosh, we need to stop. We're not getting anywhere. This is not going to work out. Maybe it's not for me. But it's reassuring ourselves what it took for us to get that certification, to get that little piece of motivation of what is your why. Because, for me, like when I opened up my personal training business once upon a time, I was just like, well, it's because I wanted to do it. And I had so many clients and I was so happy about it. And you just kept going. And then there was times where, holy crap, I don't have any more clients because they just don't want to do the services. They're done. They got what they wanted. How do you keep searching for that? So, I really appreciate sharing that.
Yeah. I think, being in contact with yourself and like constantly reflecting on why you're doing it, what you're doing, what's working, what's not working, and taking a very realistic, brutally realistic assessment of what's working and what's not working, right? If it's not working, if the data says it's not working, it's not working. Like, even if it should work, it's not working,
Yeah, exactly. And, what other challenges did you go through just to maintain open and just striving for that success?
One of the biggest challenges was when I had my daughter. And I feel like, at that time, I had, had my practice open for a couple of years. So I was past that initial, ramp up phase. But at the same time, I still am the only lawyer in my practice, which means, I needed to be present. Like, I couldn't just remove myself from it and take like a nice maternity leave. I remember being completely breaking down, these boundaries that we just create in ourselves. And I said, you know what? I'm taking work home all the time. I am always in my mind, like, thinking about the business and how to do this and how to do that. And so there isn't really like, okay, I can leave work at work boundary. That's possible, right? When you're a new entrepreneur, especially. But then why can't I bring my home to work, right? And that was one of the breakthroughs that I had, because I said, you know what, I have a daughter, and I want to be a mother to her, and I want to, be their experience, and to feed her, and to care for her, and all of that. But I also have a business that needs me physically. So on my day 4, after having a kid, I stepped back into the office, and I brought her with me. And what I did was I had like a little extra office space. I made that office into like a nursery room and a pumping room, because I was breastfeeding her. And so, when I came to the office, I came with my baby. And I, at first, I had it all in my head, like, oh, clients are going to think it's so unprofessional. Quite the contrary. Clients themselves have kids. they understand what it's like to be a parent, and they understand that sometimes you're juggling two or three priorities at the same time, and they actually feel more related. They feel more that you are more relatable. So I found that that changed how I looked at my practice and how I looked at my clients. And my clients now, when they come to our office, we have toys. We always have toys because I want my clients to bring their kids and for the kids to be able to do something while their parents are consulting.
That is so inspiring, and thank you for sharing that, because nowadays I'm finding, I'm not a mom, but I hear from other moms, like, how do I get back to this routine? I just had my baby, like, how can I keep going? And I know here in Canada, I can say, well, if you are employed by somebody, and it's different when you're self-employed, but, we went from, I think it was 9 months to 13 months of maternity leave, which is great, but then, you've got those self-employed who have those businesses that they need them. Like you mentioned, your business needed you. How do we make this work? And, that's a powerful story. You were able to balance both of them, but had the flexibility of bringing your own child to your workplace and still, still be that businesswoman, be that entrepreneurial. And then I found it so inspiring, because a lot of them I hear when I read articles, sometimes a lot of them just like, how do I get back? How do I maintain my business? How can I, be that mom, but also be that entrepreneurial? So, thank you for sharing that bit of information. I know you've already shared a lot, but now that that I know that you're a mom as well, I hope it teaches other women, like, it's not just you doing it. There's many other of them that do it as well. But, you having this business in a law firm, you did something to accommodate your child and for yourself and your business.
And it didn't take away anything. I mean, it added. All of a sudden, now people could come into here and kind of let their, stress out and just be like, yes, I can bring my kids, and you can go ahead and you can play with these toys here while I'll, talk to the attorney. And, I sometimes still, when my daughter comes back from daycare early or something, bring her to the office. She loves it. Now she's so used to it. Now she knows what her mom does. She, even in her pretend play, I've caught her playing lawyer-client. And so, and now she feels so proud when she's able to help me in the office. She's 4. And so when I print something from the printer in the other room, and I say, oh, can you grab me, what I just printed out? And like, she'll be like, Mom's, important helper. And it's a source of pride for the little girl, So it's nice to actually have them be a part of your professional life and to merge that in a way that's positive.
For sure, definitely. And letting them know that, hey, mom works, and, this is what, it's really giving them a full insight of what you do. And what's nice that, I know you mentioned before about having toys, making it child-friendly at your office. It's such a great stress relief for that parent or parents, because they deal with so much stress when going into a lawyer's office, unless it's something like the final stages. But at least the child doesn't have to sense that stress that they're going through while they're speaking to you and having that consultation. So that's really amazing that you're doing that, because a lot of the law firms I see here, they're not child-friendly. I know dentists are and some doctors, but a lot of other offices are not child-friendly. And I think that it's the normal thing nowadays. Like, you need to have your office child-friendly, so this way the child can be distracted, and the parent or the parents can just let whatever they need to let go, or just deal whatever they need to deal with during that time, because it can be frustrating when you got your child with you on your lap and they're like, Mommy, but I just want to go home. Are you done yet? Are you done yet? And like that half an hour consultation, you didn't really get anything out, because, the child is just doesn't know what to do.
Yeah, haven't we all been that child? Right?
Oh, yeah, I was.
I know I was. My parents shopping or something. It's like all I want to do is go home or eat this or eat that or play with this or play with that. And, it's painful. And so I think we're evolving, because of more holistic business models, better communication, better, more mediums to learn from each other. Now we're looking at our own professions and the same things that have been tried and true before, and we're reshaping them. And I feel like that's something I've tried to do with my practice. Like I've tried to make my law practice, accessible from anywhere. So one of the things, with this whole COVID thing, we're having to work remotely a lot, and luckily that was something I had already put into place. Is every file is electronic for us, and so we've already been, positioned to be able to work from anywhere, and then also having, it be more child-friendly, family-friendly, providing a different atmosphere. I mean, law firms, the whole industry of law is such an old industry, and some of it is so rooted in traditions, and lawyers have this image of being very cutthroat and dry and, stoic, and it needs to be changed with, and evolved. So that's something that I've been very mindful of doing.
And that's great, honestly. And I hope other people who are listening who are entrepreneurs, and try to change that into being child friendly and taking that approach, because really it's going to help both people. Some people can't even be able to, get a babysitter last minute because they have to deal with something important, and they have no choice but to bring their child.
Right. Yeah. Yep. And that's when we talked earlier about being there to support the person, to support the client, not just the case. Like, these are the types of things we think about, when we're supporting clients. How do we make it easy for them?
And providing that service is just like the cherry on top. And, like your business dealing from the beginning to the end of the stages of what they're going through is like, oh my God, they got a place for the child to play. How amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I feel like, all of us are happy to interact with the children from time to time, so they don't really feel like that this is not for them. They come here with a smile, and we try to have them leave with a smile,
No, that's great. That is great. Now, what advice could you give a mom who needs that balance for their business, and they don't have that opportunity to kind of like, I can't bring them in yet, or if they're feeling unsafe? Because I know you jumped into it and you're just kind of like, you know what, I'm just going to do it anyway, right, after 4 days. But what advice could you give them?
Well, I think, it's going to be different for every person with their circumstances. The main thing is to really open that thinking to see what's possible, what can be changed, what can be improved upon, what are those archaic rules that really don't apply anymore.
Yeah, definitely. And breaking down those barriers. I feel like that's the big thing, and who cares what other people are saying, because you really want to be that person that's going to accommodate your business, and you know what's best for them. And if your gut feeling says it's the right thing to do, then just go ahead and do it.
Yeah, and that's the beauty about being an entrepreneur, right? Like, you get to write those rules.
Oh, I definitely agree. You can write all the rules you want. You choose how you're going to navigate your business, and you have the liberty to do pretty much anything. Of course, with common sense in mind, but you can just do it all. You can do anything.
Yeah, and one of the things I also thought about was, what is the message that I want to communicate to people who walk in here? And so we were kind of always mindful of that. Like, what do we want people to feel when they walk into my office? Now, law firms, because of, laws connected with confidentiality and other things, they tend to have, the traditional private offices, no like open office model or anything like that. So we have separate offices, which seems necessary to feel comfortable sharing, deeply confidential things. But then at the same time, we said, you know what, we're going to, paint our walls like a very soothing lilac, because we don't want people to come here and feel stressed any more than they already are. We're going to keep toys and other playthings that make this a lighter environment for people, because my clients come from all walks of life. I don't want that glass office with like all glass windows and glass doors where kids are not permitted to leave fingerprints anywhere. I don't want that. That's not the message I wanted to communicate. The message I wanted to communicate was, we're here for you and your lifestyle. But at the same time, of course, we're here to do our work, and we're here to do it really well.
That's fantastic. I really like what you're saying, and I really hope other people who are entrepreneurs can really take this advice in, because it can really take your business to a whole new level. And like you said, it's just as simple as changing the color of the walls to make it less stressful, because dealing with anything law, it can be stressful, good or bad. It's like, if it's good, you're waiting to get that piece of paper, get something approved. If it's bad, you're just like, oh my gosh, like what's going to happen? Is my life going to, finish here? And do I have to go back, or what do I have to do? And, you're fighting for it. So little things like that can really make it feel welcoming, and just let's reduce the stress. Let me help you out, and let's solve this problem, or let's get whatever you need done.
Yeah, exactly. You have to kind of shop your services, right? Like, what if you are the consumer of your services? What experience do you want to have from the first phone call onward?
Exactly. Now, at your practice, do you do free consultations, or what is it, so people can, keep a lookout for you?
That's a really, really good question. And what we do is we do free intakes, which means...
When you get bitten by the LSS bug, you can't get that catchy tune out of your head. You play it in the morning, noon, and night. You wake up to it, fall asleep to it, and then just as quickly, you never want to hear it again. With a week of Spotify Premium, you can play your LSS anytime, as often as you like, and then stop when you've had enough. Get premium for a week for just 49 pesos. No commitment, no problem.
Keep a lookout for you.
That's a really, really good question. And what we do is we do free intakes, which means the first time somebody calls, we don't, sometimes people experience with certain law firms, like they have to fill out long forms and stuff. We don't want that. We want them to be able to talk to a person. So when they first call, they talk to a staff member who takes down their story and asks some probing questions connected with their story, so that we have a detailed understanding. Because when somebody speaks to me, I want to be prepared for that conversation. I don't want to have to do any background research, while they have their consultation time. And I also don't want to be distracted. So I have a staff member first do like a detailed intake and then pass it on to me. And then based on the intake, sometimes clients have questions that require, basically they're just looking for certain answers. They're not really looking for a lawyer for a certain case, right? Like sometimes they have a question about, is this even possible? Which option do I choose between, X, Y, and Z? In those kinds of cases, we do charge for consultations, but sometimes clients have a completely different type of situation, and they call us and they say, well, you know what, I'm looking for a lawyer, or my company is looking for a lawyer. And in those kinds of situations, we talk to them, and it's not really like a consultation, and then it would not carry a charge. So it depends on the type of call it is, and how we determine it is based on the detailed intake that our staff is trained to do.
Well, okay. Good to know. Definitely good to know. I like that. Now, tell the listeners where they can find you, the location, the address, and any social media accounts you may have.
Yeah, so I do have some free resources. One resource is a Facebook group called USA Immigration Experience. The goal of that group is to, and it's fairly new, but the goal of it is to create a community where information is moderated and there is that attorney communication, but at the same time interaction between different immigrants themselves and, experiences that they share and exchange with themselves. So that's our Facebook group, USA Immigration Experience. It's free of charge. I do videos on it all the time to update, the members of all the different changes in the law and general things, tips and things to help them. And, if they want to actually talk to me directly, they can always call my law firm at 312-854-7065 or visit our website, www.SwagatUSA.com. That spells SWAGATUSA.com. And by the way, Swagat means welcome. Sometimes people think it's swag. It's not about swag. It's Swagat, which means welcome. The message that I was trying to communicate with that name was a message of welcoming immigrants to the United States.
I love that. Well, Dhenu, thank you so much. And of course, all the listeners, everything's going to be in the show notes. Definitely give her a call for all your immigration needs. Even if you're outside of the globe and you want to get in touch with how this whole system is going to work and making your move to the United States comfortable, definitely give her a call. Thank you so much again.
Thank you. It was a pleasure having this conversation. And, I hope that your listeners got something out of it.
For sure. I can bet on that because we talked about a little bit of everything. Your journey as a lawyer, the entrepreneurial that you are, and also, now that I know that you're a mom and make it so welcoming and all tied in together, I really appreciate it, and I thank you for sharing those personal stories because those are the ones that are, people are very striving for, and I feel like I even get motivated. I'm just like, oh wow, after a couple of days you're already back in the workforce. I'm like, that's what I want to do.
I don't know if I thought about it as something I wanted to do, but, definitely it worked out well. I had a consultation. It was funny. I had a consultation where I had to say, excuse me, I need to feed my daughter. And that was the time, when she was 4 days old. I said, how old is she? So she's 4 days. And my clients were like, their face just completely like in awe. But yeah, that does make for a fun story.
It does. But you know what? It shows the drive that you have, and a lot of people kind of take it the wrong way. Oh, it's because you really financially need it. Like you really need it, and it's not just that. It's just you care about your business, you care about your clients, and you just want to be there for them.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to be there for them, and I want to make sure we're meeting deadlines, and I, want to make sure that our clients feel like we're trustworthy and not just, some days we're available and some days we're not available. So that, that again impacts their experience of, the service. So that's how we've operated, and it's worked out so far. So
yeah, and look at you now. Well, thank you.
Thank you again.
Yeah, no, thank you. Oh my gosh, you shared so much information. I really appreciate it. And to all the listeners out there, everything's going to be in the show notes. Don't you worry. Thank you, Dhenu. And thank you again to all the listeners. Thanks for tuning in on another episode of A Little Bit of Everything with me. And that's all we have for now.
I'm Anthony.
And I'm Jessica with the Beautiful Feet podcast.
Hey, it's your boy Bromar, host of The Bromar Show.
Hello, everyone. It's the Coupon Queen Pin from the CQP Moments podcast.
What's up, everybody? This is your boy Ken, a.k.a. The Gentleman of the Gentleman Lifestyle Podcast.
Hi, this is Stephanie Valente, your local massage therapist, and you're listening
are
to
listening to a little bit of everything with Angelica.
Angelica.
That's it for now, and thank you for tuning in on another episode of A Little Bit of Everything with me,